For more than 20 years, I've been obsessed with guitars. From playing them, to working on them, to buying and collecting them, I've built quite the collection of awesome custom guitars. Now, I'm turning my passion into a profession by seeking out old, beat-up guitars and giving them new life, all while trying to make a profit. I'll be searching everywhere for used gear that I can refret, rewire, repaint, whatever it takes to make it a real shredder. This is Trash to Thrash. Ibanez history selling musical instruments dates back to the early 1900s. They started building guitars in Japan in the 1930s. What we know as Ibanez now really started in the late 50s though. In 1979, Ibanez released the Roadstar series. Eventually, in 1987, they released the RG350 in the Roadstar series, and it was the first RG guitar to be released. With the popularity of the shredders of the 1980s, like Steve Vai playing Ibanez guitars, they became very popular, especially since they had 24 frets, floating bridges, and deeper body cutaways. They were just made to shred. This is an RG350 that I've been working on for a couple weeks. This is how it came in, but now it hardly resembles this guitar. This guitar belongs to a customer of mine named Ben. Ben liked what I was doing here on the show and wanted me to rebuild his guitar, give it a new finish, upgraded electronics, and give new life to his first guitar that he got over 10 years ago. We came up with this concept together of orange with purple splatter, and I think it looks great. Now that the clear coat is sprayed and cured, it's time to do some level sanding and polishing on this one. Then we'll wire it up. But first, this guitar that I first showed you a few weeks back is a 1985 Ibanez Proline 1660 Flying V. In 1985, the Proline series were Ibanez top guitars. The Proline series featured oil finish necks, flat radius fingerboards, and custom finishes. They were designed with help from top professional guitarists. The Proline series only lasted for 2 years before they were discontinued in 1986. In 1987, Ibanez developed the S-Body and the RG, which took over and became Ibanez's most popular guitars. This guitar features an alder body with bolt-on construction, a one-piece maple neck with 22 frets, and an ebony fretboard, and a Pro Rocker floating tremolo. From what I hear, these are great bridges. It's missing a couple parts, but if I can find the replacements, I'll definitely keep it on here. This one's crazy. This is another made in Japan, actually, Ibanez. And man, feel the neck on this one. Like the neck is super nice. I love the texture, like the way that the back of the neck feels. It's like very smooth, but you can feel a little bit of the grain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this one, I think it's from the 80s. I'm pretty sure this thing is like maybe as old as me. And I was contacted by someone on Instagram who reached out and said that they think that this would be a good guitar project for me. And you know, I'd never heard of the Ibanez Proline before, but it's basically like a Rhodes, like non-symmetrical flying V shape. And this one I don't even actually know what the plan is gonna be. This bridge is super weird, but if I can find replacement parts for the fine tuners, which I'm pretty sure I can, I can see the blocks are missing out of there, but that's not a big deal. I might replace it, but then again I might not. It does have, you know, could probably be retrofitted for a Floyd Rose pretty easily. I could see that the back has, you know, the capability. It's set up for springs and everything like that. There's like a piece of wood sticking out from right here. I don't know what the paint job's going to be. See if something inspires me along the way, or if you get a crazy idea, I want you to let me know too.
Absolutely.
For you guys watching, if you guys have a crazy recommendation for this thing, I mean, it's a wicked guitar. Look at that thing. If you guys got ideas, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you think I should do crackle, if you do think it should be crackle, let me know what colors.
As wild of a body style as that is, it needs definitely some kind of crazy, like over-the-top 80s paint scheme to it.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'll go with a clear pickguard and throw LEDs under there. I haven't even taken this pickguard off yet, so I don't even know what to expect under there. This is going to be a really fun one. It's going to be super unique. I've never really seen anybody play these.
The headstock for this one is getting sanded as well?
Yeah, we're going to repaint the headstock on this one. It's actually in pretty decent condition, but it's got enough chips and dings in it that I do want to repaint it. You know, it's kind of a bummer because you can't get, like, it says Proline series right there, and I don't think I can get the logos online that say that, but maybe I'll make my own. Do something fully custom. I haven't done that before, and it's always fun to experiment on these kinds of guitars. Especially since this one isn't really sold yet, so I can take my time with it and really take this as an opportunity to learn some new skills. Now I'll hand this guitar off to my shop assistant, Ryan, and he'll disassemble it and get it sanded down for me. The next step is to do some body repairs on it, and then I'll spray it up. Now let's get back to the orange RG350 with purple splatter. After spraying the clear coat, it looks really clear and nice, except for it has a ton of orange peel. Orange peel is an uneven texture that forms on top of paint, and it really does feel like an orange. You can see it all over the surface of this guitar, but when you look here, it's really smooth, basically mirror-like, and that's because this has been level sanded and polished. After spraying the clear coat, there's a long process to getting it to look like this. Feels really weird to do, but you need to level sand the surface of the guitar after you spray it. I use 800 grit to do the level sanding, and once all the orange peel is out, I'll move on to 1000, then 1500, then I finish off with 2000 grit. Some people go to 3000, but from what I've heard, it's not really necessary. The first grit that you use, the 800, is known as level sanding. Level sanding is what's going to take care of the majority of the orange peel. I go real light when I use 800 because you don't want to go too deep and burn through the clear coat, and I go in small little circles like this. You'll also notice that I wipe off the sandpaper and wipe off the guitar frequently. The name of the game here really is to keep a clean working surface. As you sand, there's going to be little dust particles in the sandpaper and on the surface of the guitar, and you want to clear that off so you're not just digging them in deeper. And you're using the sandpaper's grit to put small scratches in the surface, not dust. After you finish with the 800 and you've gotten rid of almost all of the orange peel, basically all the orange peel, then you get into your finer grits, 1000 and finer. And this is known as polish sanding because you're not really leveling it anymore. The guitar's pretty much level. You're just trying to remove the scratches from the 800 grit. When you move up to the 1500, you're removing the scratches from the 1000 grit. As you move to the finer and finer grits, it removes the previous scratches left by the more coarse sandpapers. After sanding the guitar, you can see that it has a very dull look to it. Like I said, it feels really weird to do this when it looks pretty clear to start with, but this is how you get that true mirror finish to it, by using different grades of sandpaper and scratching it up. The liquid compounds that we're going to polish it with, we'll be able to remove those scratches and leave us with a mirror-like finish. These two Meguiar products, 105 and 205, are what I like to use. You'll need a lot of clean towels on hand because you don't want to contaminate the towels with the other compound. You'll have a pile of towels just for one compound and then a separate pile of towels for the other compound. If you use some type of buffer pad like shown here, same thing, you'll need separate buffing pads for each compound. I cut up soft cotton towels like shown here into small squares. When you're buffing and polishing with compound, you're basically removing clear coat and material. It's like a super fine sandpaper, like super fine. So all that material that's coming up off the guitar is actually getting stuck in the towel. That's why you need to use separate towels for each compound. The first compound you're going to use is going to have a more coarse cut to it, like a more coarse sandpaper would. The second compound that I like to use is a finishing polish, so it's going to have a more fine cut to it, like a more fine sandpaper would. So if you go to wipe down your finishing polish with something that has residue from a coarse compound in it, you're going to be putting bigger scratches back in it. So you need to make sure that you're using clean towels as you wipe everything down. I start with the Ultra Cut compound and start buffing it in small circles like this. I'll do 3 to 4 passes like this and then wipe off all the material and do it again. Usually I'll do this 3 to 4 times on each spot using this compound. Like I said, I'll go 3 to 4 times and wipe it completely off using a separate towel that's dry, making sure to get off all the residue and contaminants that were in the compound that were left on the surface. I learned about the importance of removing the residue and the old product watching the Ammo NYC YouTube channel. They have a ton of videos going real deep, in-depth, testing different products and techniques on luxury cars. After buffing the entire guitar like that, I come back and I buff it again using the second compound. This thing looks great. Mirror finish on it, lots of towels, lots of product, but hey, look at this thing, it looks gorgeous. For the clear coat on this guitar, I use SprayMax 2K Clear, which is a 2-part in an aerosol can. I got way better results with this than I have out of any other aerosol can before. I was even able to build up enough clear coat so that when I sanded it, it's all level. You don't feel the blood splatter at all. Next up is to do the same thing to the headstock. From start to finish, it took about 18 minutes, so not too bad. And look at that, that looks amazing. The vinyl logo I put on the headstock isn't exactly flat, but it's really smooth and it looks awesome. I'm really happy with it. Sometimes when you remove the neck of a guitar, you'll feel there's all these wood burrs sticking out of the back of these screw holes. So I'll take a razor blade and just kind of cut it flush, clean that back up so that the neck and the body are going to mate back up really nicely. After unwrapping the fretboard, I'm reminded that these frets need to be polished. So I'm going to tape off the actual fretboard and polish up the frets a little bit. Now I'll dress up the headstock, reinstall the tuners, the truss rod cover, and the string retainer. The frets were still in pretty good condition. There's a little bit of wear on them, but they'll hold up for a while longer. I gave the fretboard a wipe down. It's showing its age a little bit, but it still looks good. And the headstock with the hardware just looks awesome. The gloss clear coat turned out amazing. For the tuners, we went with Goto tuners, which are my favorite, made in Japan. I ran into one problem here. The locking nut, a screw was broken off in it. I looked it up, it's an R43, which may have a special radius exclusive to Ibanez. I looked around, I didn't really see any available online, so we're going to get this screw out. Next, we're going to use a center punch to find the exact center of that screw. Then we're going to use an easy out. An easy out is a tool you put in your drill. It consists of two parts. Something that's going to drill out the broken screw, and something that's going to use a reverse thread to pull it back out using the hole you just put in it. After a ton of drilling, I don't think that's going to work. I'm not really sure how I'm going to get that out. I'll probably hand it off to my shop assistant, Ryan, who's a great machinist and probably will have some ideas. And if not, we'll just have to search for a new R43 nut. While we figure out that nut situation, we'll work on the electronics. For the RG350, the pickups and parts are all mounted on a pickguard, which is really easy to work on the bench. I also gave a little polish to this part right here. You'll notice it looks a little darker and a little better than the rest of the pickguard. We'll be reusing the old pickguard, but I think I can make it look a lot better than it does now. It's time to strip off all the old components, take the pickups out, the pots, the switch, and we'll be replacing it all with these beautiful Seymour Duncan pickups. We'll be going with the Sentient and Pegasus set for the neck and the bridge, and a JB Jr. in the middle pickup position. We'll also be ditching the tone in place for a kill switch. Now that all the components are stripped off the pickguard, I'll give it a little polish, wipe down. And now it's out to the shop to use the drill press and put a bigger hole in the tone position for the kill switch. Now it's time to start assembling the pickguard. Years before Trash to Thrash, Guitar Guts, any of that stuff, I actually used to own a company that built pre-wired pickguards and sent them out to people, ready to just drop right in their guitar. So wiring a guitar really is one of my specialties. By the way, how awesome is this Tessie kill switch in purple anodized metal? Try and guess what color it is. This here is a potentiometer, or a pot for short. This is actually what's underneath the knobs of your guitar, inside there, that make the volume go up and down and control your tone. They're a really simple electronic, and they only have 3 little tabs on them that you wire things up to. Basically an input, an output, and a ground. They come in a million different sizes, but for guitars we mainly use 250K for single coils and 500K for humbuckers. But you could use either for either, it'll just sound a little different. This here is another 500K potentiometer, but this one has a built-in switch on the bottom of it that can be activated by a push-pull mechanism under the knob. You can see the big box here on the bottom that's added on has all these spots on the front to add wires to, and that's what's going to be controlled by the toggle switch that you activate by pulling the volume up and down. There's actually a lot of really cool and clever ways to wire these up and get a lot of different cool features out of your guitar. You can do phase reversing to give you completely different tones. You can do coil splitting, so it'll cut your humbucker in half and give you a single coil type sound. If you're real hardcore, you can do series and parallel toggle switching. They're really cool. The new push-pull pot doesn't quite fit in this old hole, so we're going to open it up using this reamer. I learned a ton of wiring tricks and soldering techniques back in my pickguard building days. Wiring up a guitar is actually a pretty simple job, although the more tricked out wiring you have with kill switches and coil tapping like this guitar has does add a layer of complexity to it, but really if you can follow a diagram, it's not that difficult. The skill of soldering, on the other hand, is a little tougher. If you don't know exactly what you're doing, you could end up burning wires, burning yourself, so be careful when you do this. If you need to wear safety goggles, I recommend that. But if you don't know what you're doing, you should probably bring it to a professional anyways. My old pickguard company was called Pickuptronics, and we were an authorized dealer for Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio, and EMG. I ran the company for about 7 years with my business partner, Mike. I've wired up at least 100 pickguards and shipped them all over the world to different countries. I really learned a lot and got a lot of great experience wiring up all those pickguards. An experienced guitar wiring tech could probably wire up a guitar in 30 to 40 minutes if you go through it quickly. But if you really take your time and you want to do a really fine job on it, it's going to take at least an hour, probably a couple hours. It's important when you're wiring a guitar to use good wire, to take your time, not run wires too tight. You want to have a nice little service loop in places, and use good technique when soldering. You don't want to have cold joints and big old extra solder blobs all over the place. Earlier I told you guys to guess the color of the kill switch. It's going on a purple and orange guitar. The kill switch is anodized purple. What do you think? Orange, of course. Tessie makes some really cool kill switches, so on this guitar of course we went with the purple anodized kill switch with an orange LED. The Sentient and Pegasus pickups look awesome, all blacked out like that. The JB Jr. in the middle is a really cool pickup, which it fits in a single coil size hole, but it's actually a humbucker pickup. There's 2 coils inside that pickup, and you could even tell it's got the 2 rows of screws on top. I'm a big fan of taking your time and routing the cables really neatly and using heat shrink to hold and harness the wires together. I also use flux. Liquid flux can only be ordered online usually, but it makes soldering so much easier. It allows the solder to just flow. To me, on a custom guitar, small details like this are what make a huge difference. These small foam inserts are going to go underneath the Floyd Rose. You hardly see them, and they're just black on almost all guitars, but having purple foam pads under there, when you notice that kind of stuff, to me, that's what makes a really cool guitar unique and special. It comes down to these types of small details. I mean, look at that. This is one of those things that I've never seen any other builders do, and I got a feeling after putting this out there, we're going to start seeing more guitars with colored foam to match the details of the guitar under the Floyd Rose. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, like I say every single week, keep spreading the word, posting this show on your social media stories, letting your friends know about it. I love when people do that. I keep getting messages from people saying so-and-so referred me, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing to help me spread the word. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, of course. Hit that bell to be notified every Thursday when a new episode of Trash to Thrash comes online. And also leave your comments down below, hit the like button. I mean, all that stuff helps the show a ton. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you want me to customize your guitar, send me an email, mark@guitarguts.com. My contact information is down below, and we'll get your guitar on the show here. If you need a custom guitar or anything like that, DM me on Instagram, send me an email, whatever you got to do to get a hold of me. So be sure to tune in next week to see how this Ibanez comes along, see how the Proline V is coming, and also I have a ton of other customer guitars that are here right now. So we'll be starting some of those ones in the next week or two. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.